So good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us this evening. It does take a few seconds for everyone to get onto the call, so I'm just going to give it a few seconds in terms of everyone getting out from the waiting room onto the chat itself. But I think in the meantime, just a big welcome to the discussion this evening, which is basically just about how we talk about the introduction of vibrant coastal living for the over 50s into Salta Sibaya, which is very exciting. I think we're going to touch on where we are, where we've come from in terms of the Salta journey. It hasn't been a long time since the launch of the 13th of March, and so much has happened and so much exciting stuff. And I think this is just a really, really exciting chapter in the whole journey going forward. I think the idea of this evening is really to give everyone a very true and honest insight into what Capri Village will consist of, and to get it directly from the people who've been so integral in the formation of the vision around Salta Sibaya, but also Capri Village going forward. And I think to be able to answer any questions and for you to have a really, really good holistic overview that you probably wouldn't be able to get in any other consolidated forum. And just so you know, we will be making recordings of this, so you have an opportunity to go back and you ask any questions or refer to anything, but also be able to forward on to any family or friends who haven't been able to make the chat. I think just by way of introduction, my name is Stefan Buerta from Raymaker Marketing, and I'll be facilitating the chat tonight. I'll introduce the various team members, all from different components, some from the care, from the development perspective, a legal perspective, and also from a sales perspective. And I think just to recap, I think I mentioned a second ago, on the 9th of March this year, we did the first webinar, which was basically 3 or 4 days prior to the launch of Capri, I think, or to Salta Sibaya. I think at the time we all knew something big was going to happen, but I don't think anyone realized that it would be one of a handful of projects in the country's history that would have done R1 billion on launch. We spoke about it. I know Charles speculated. I think he said he was going to get quite close to $1 billion. I think a couple of raised eyebrows from media and various different sources in the course of that week. And in that launch weekend, hit $1 billion in sales, which in a time where we've been up and down, we've been through COVID, we've been through so many different things. And now to be sitting in north of 1.5 billion and to have broken ground by the end of May this year, which it's unheard of. It's unheard of that you launch a project and break ground within 2 months. And Charles will talk about that rollout as we go, but really exciting in terms of where we are. And really, I think something that KZN, in a time where we need lots of happiness and lots of good news, it's one of those good news stories that I think we can't dwell on too much in terms of what it means for the economy and for investor confidence and various other things. So I think just a very quick introduction to the panelists, to Pamela Naidu, who many of you will know. If you've been involved in anything Devemco related, you will know Pam, whether it's Ocean Dune or Pebble Beach or Gold Coast, who's the head of sales for Devemco, but also for Devemco Group and for Devemco Realty. So how's it, Pam?
Hi there.
Cornell Niemenhuizen, who's the director of Total Care. You can see Cornell is very close to the pub and looks very, very happy about it. How's it, Cornel?
Hi, Steve.
Then Ant Watmore, who's locked and loaded and is back guarded. I think Ant's not leaving where he is, but Ant is the director of Anthony Watmore and Company. And I think the big thing has been the integration with the Devemco from the word go in terms of making the process as seamless and as hassle-free for all buyers. And I think it's a huge, huge component. Attorneys don't always have to be the enemy, and I think in this case, Ant is the good guy. So, yeah. And then I think Charles Thompson, who many of you know, who's the director of the Devemco Group and really the visionary together, the rest of the Devemco team, who've put Salta together and have made all the Devemco projects the successes that they are. So I think just a quick few housekeeping rules before we get going. We're going to try and keep this chat around 45 minutes. And I really ask those of you, I think most people are probably quite used to a Zoom chat like this. There is a chat function at the bottom. We invite you to ask as many questions as possible. We're going to try and get to everything in 45 minutes because we know time's valuable. But at the same time, if we need to cover a few more questions as we go, then we'll absolutely do it. I think ask any questions you have. If you want to know about pricing or levies or structures or care, the team's here to answer those questions. This is exactly what the session's about. Be able to ask all the questions you want, but to be able to make the purchasing process for you or family members as stress-free as possible. We are making a recording, as I mentioned, and then, if you lose connection, as you know, with any of these Zoom chats, just go back into the link. The same applies to the panelists. I'll just direct questions on. So I'm just going to be directing the questions and leaving it to the pros to talk about what they know best. So I think maybe, Charles, just to start off with you, I think you are the man who is so integral to this whole scheme. I think maybe just a quick little status in terms of where are we with Salta currently, just from a construction perspective and all the other elements, the retail, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, well, thanks, Steph, and good evening, everyone on the call. Yeah, so we broke ground in May. I'm sure many of you that have gone up and down the M4 have seen a lot of yellow metal machines rattling around, but they are going full tilt 7 days a week. So we've started doing all the main primary roads, and the services are going in. So the stormwater, drainage, sewage, the sleeves for electrical and water and fiber are currently going in. A lot of the bulk earthworks has pretty much finished for the retail component, which is at the entrance of the entire estate. And yeah, we actually are, I believe we started yesterday on actually leveling all the platforms for Capri. So we are going on that, although we haven't launched yet. Yeah, so that first 120 odd platforms, we've started on that as well. So yeah, the program is to try and have the bulk of the bulk civils completed by year end with the bulk services in, and then really starting some top structures either towards the end of the year or early in the new year, depending on what happens with the summer rains. But yeah, we're going absolutely full steam ahead on site at the moment.
And then Charles, obviously just to touch on the vision for Capri and how that fits into the overall Salta ethos.
Yeah, so I think going into Salta, that there was sort of 5 components. It was the holistic nature of the estate living, so mega estate living. Security was paramount. Obviously, the lifestyle location was important, and then we came up with the freestanding home plots and plan option, which was Salta, and then obviously the freestanding homes where you can design and build your own home. And then the third component to that was obviously the over 50s active lifestyle living, which a lot of our buyers, whether they be investors or parents of younger families, were saying, look, we really need something that's freestanding and close. So that Capri model sort of popped out of just demand and hitting a sweet spot in the price market of sort of between 2 and 3 million. Pet-friendly, stepless living with gardens, so you can still have your flowers and your pets and all the rest of it. Not apartment-orientated living and close to amenities. That was sort of the fourth component of our development, and obviously the fifth being the retail. And then retail with the offerings of hairdressers and convenience and restaurants and shopping shops like your Dis-Chems and Woolies and spas. That in itself is a very important amenity for your active over 50s, that you can walk to the shops, have your hair done, have your nails done, go for a restaurant meal, go have a gin and tonic at the brewery. So that sort of, let's call it that fifth component of convenient retail space morphed into an overwhelming demand for that over 50s lifestyle, and that's sort of how Capri came about.
Okay, and then so Charles, I mean, without keeping you in the limelight here, I think there's some really good questions coming through, and I think that's brilliant. That's exactly what we want. So there's one from Edwin Govender, and I think it hits a nail on the head. What probably a lot of guys are asking is, what is the difference between Salta and Capri, aside from the care aspect? And then the second question is quality of building. I assume he refers to building types, etc., etc.
Okay, so yeah, Salta was let's call it a 3.8 to 4.8 million rand product, slightly larger, designed for younger families. So a lot of the stock had 4-bedroom, even up to 5-bedroom units. Obviously, you've got a sea-facing orientation, quite a little bit larger stands. So it was designed for that young emerging family, or even a scaling down family that didn't want to enter the market at a 6-7 million rand price point, as maybe Mount Cotton would be if you bought land and built it. And then Capri is slightly smaller plots. It is west facing, so and obviously the facilities are more suited internally for an over 50s sort of lifestyle living. And then on top of that, the home types were a little bit smaller. So you'll see there's product that's offered from a 1-bedroom a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom. We don't really have much in the 4-bedroom space on the retirement side, although there are 20 custom sites where you can actually, if you wanted to take a Salta home and plop it onto a custom site and have that if you wanted a bit more space. So it was really aimed at keeping that price point between 2 and 3 million rather than going from the 3.5 to 4.5 million. In terms of quality of build, second part of the question, all of our builders are NHBRC approved, so that, which means you've got a 3-year guarantee on all your top structure builds. We have gone through a process of about 25 builders where we select a panel of about 10, and we ensure that we visit all of their previous sites. We fully are up to speed with the quality of workmanship. And what's quite nice is having a nice panel of builders. If someone's not performing or the quality is not up to standard of our project managers, which inspect daily, they are not given work and they're actually replaced. So we keep quality at the forefront, and quality runs parallel with time. So it's important to have a good quality product, but there's no point in being 1 year late. So it's a blend of quality and time management that we put a large emphasis on.
Perfect, Charles. And then guys, I see there are quite a few questions coming through. Just to clarify, if you would like other people to see the questions, you can go via the Q&A function. And if you want to direct it directly to a panelist or for all the panelists, then go via the chat function. I know one of the chat questions is from Albert Elliott, just in terms of no renders available. Yeah, Albert, there's plenty of material. We're actually shared during the course of this, the link to the downloads page and also the interactive module where you'll be able to have a look at all the different renders. Obviously, what everyone's sitting behind at the moment is examples. I mean, I'm sitting in front of one of the freestanding units, Pam sitting in her lounge, and then obviously various different things. So you're seeing two different angles there of the clubhouse, one with the interior area with the library, etc., and then Charles in terms of where he's sitting with the bowling in the back. But yeah, that's all part of the material, which I think that's going to be a big part of the engagement with the team going forward. And then I think, and I want to go to Pam, but just to bring you in here, because I think it's a really good question from Tasmia Hussein. It says, "How wanting to find out, Capri Village is directed to age group 50 and over. Now, what happens if a person is 47 and doing floor planning? Can the age restriction be waived?" I think really good question.
Yeah, so thanks, Steph, and a very good evening to all the viewers out there. The age group is a really important question because at least one occupant has to be 50 years of age or older, okay? In terms of the memorandum of incorporation that you drafted, the association has got the authority or the power to determine from time to time if there's exceptional circumstances. So let's just look at the age thing at the moment. One occupant has to be 50 years of age or older. You don't have to be 50 to be able to purchase a property at Capri, but an occupant has to be 50 or over. The spouse or the life partner doesn't have to be 50. So if a person is 47 years of age, obviously that person doesn't qualify in terms of Capri. But the MIR does give the association the power to make that determination in exceptional circumstances. So it is 50 and over for at least one person. But if there are circumstances that we need to look at, then obviously we'll, the association will look at that. So I hope that I'll answer that question because it's quite a difficult question. When you get a person that's 49 years old, for example, what do you do then? So there is a discretion on the part of the association, which will obviously apply a reasonable factor to it to make sure that that everybody is accommodated as far as possible.
And I guess, and to add to that, a lot of the floor planning comes actually the investment side of retirement. I think people really underestimate how the rental yields are exceptionally good. The demand's always there. And from a capital appreciation perspective, probably stacks up as well as any other residential opportunity out there. So I think we've really seen, and Pam will talk to it, the amount of people who are inquiring from an investment perspective, understanding the demand for future.
Yeah, if I can just pop in there and just say that that's why, Steph, you are clearly under 50, you'll be able to purchase there as an investment property.
Thanks, Ant.
So
appreciate
that. And you'll be able to rent it out, as long as you've got an occupant that's 50 or over. So there's no issue with that. So it'll be really good from an investment perspective for investor out there.
And Cornell, before we talk total care, Pam, I was going to ask you, I mean, you've been dealing with clients for the last couple of weeks as the material has been finalized. We're leading up to a launch. We'll talk about why we've moved the launch out to the 4th of September. But maybe just, if you can touch on it, what's the interest been like? What has sort of underpinned the success of Salta to date? And just talking about the launch.
Okay, we'll talk about the Salta launch initial, because obviously it's a lot to brag about. We've had overwhelming success. We in the region of 95% sold out at the moment. So we're really, really glad. And just to touch on what has attributed to the success of Salta sales, it's obviously all the planning, the research. The developers have looked very carefully at selecting the location, obviously, absolutely aptly and choosing it rightly. The lifestyle elements are phenomenal. With all that's happened in the past couple of years with COVID governing our lives, lifestyle elements are so important in a state. So people don't feel trapped if you're on lockdown or something like that. We had unrest, so that as well. Then security, we've spent a massive amount of intellect on security. I think Charles and the team have selected the best possible avenues of security implementation. So location, lifestyle, security, modern architecture, and not forgetting that the price point has been absolutely exceptional. I mean, we know we could get all of the other stuff right, but if your price point is not rightly done, then people, it's an affordability thing. So I think we've pinned everything down perfectly, and we're really excited about the results that have been achieved thus far.
Sorry, Pam, I just want to, while you just touched on security, I saw a question popped up on security. So in terms of security, I think what's obviously on the forefront of everyone's minds is what happened in the last sort of 2-3 weeks. So in terms of security, we've got all the standard stuff, which is obviously the electric fencing, the beams, the monitoring cameras, surveillance, all the various CCTV stuff as well, control rooms. What is also really cool is that we've got our major security firm will be resident on site, so that at the corner entrance going into Mshloti, so they will have their head office resident there as well. So you've got on site a quantum of vehicles and guards and response, which is for the entire node of Sibaya, Mshloti, potentially even into La Mercy, Verum. That'll be their head office, which is right at the entrance, which is really nice to have. And it's something we're insisting on. On top of that, we are introducing proper gates that can actually close off the entire estate from the main road, as well as all the various the sort of car spikes and that you see in motor dealerships as well. So we aren't just ignoring what's happened. We are going to add another level on top of our security, as well as all the biometric stuff and the recordings and the access control systems, which are standard. We're taking very seriously the fact that particularly our older residents want the comfort to know that they are absolutely in the safest place they can be. So I just wanted to add that in while we were glossing through security.
100%. And then just to, I think just a comment here from Evelyn Galway, just saying, if you're already nearly sold out, what is still available? Just to clarify, I think the success we're talking about is regards to Mount Cotton and Salta Estate, which are the first two components of Salta, but now the active over 50 living product Capri has not yet launched. So all 122 units within phase one have not yet released to the public, and that'll happen on the 4th of September. But we're obviously really encouraging people to get to the sales team between now and then to really understand what the product's about.
Sorry, Steph. Just to touch on that, we do have Salta Estate, which is plot and plan, where individual can select a plot. There are sea view plots. They can choose a home type, and our team will obviously talk them through it, try and work out the best possible options. So in the first two phases, we still have availability that we can assist them with, and obviously Capri is now being taken to the market.
Cornell, I know you don't like sitting quiet for so long, but you guys have taken KZN by storm. We know that. I mean, two of the best care facilities in the province are currently run by you guys. I think maybe just a bit of a background into who you guys are.
Thanks, Steph. That's kind words of you. Yeah, we started in '99 as a care operator. So we operate in the frail care and assisted living space. We mainly do nursing care. That's our core function. And that's what's needed in these villages. We see it very often that care is the most important function. Obviously, security and having a nice estate, those are the fundamentals. But what really differentiates a good care, a good retirement facility is proper care. So we're very fortunate to have started the Salta Sibaya Care Center in January of this year. And it's out of that frail care center at Salta Sibaya that we are able now to actually give a very good home-based care service to the Capri Village. It's a stunning care center on the doorstep, 2 minutes away from Capri, where everybody can have all the luxury of having a care center on your doorstep. You can have frail care assisted living, and we can provide that home services into the Capri Village as well. Sorry, Steph, I'm not sure if I, we actually only entered, as you said, a few years ago into the KZN market. So for the last 20 years, our main operations was actually in the Gauteng market and in the Northern Cape market. But we're very happy to be in sunny KZN.
And then, Cornel, what's the service offering that Capri residents can expect?
So I think the main thing is to know that you can be looked after in the comfort of your own home for as long as possible. So what we've signed up for so far is to do primary health care. And what we mean by primary health care is, in layman's terms, village nursing. So we'll be placing a registered nurse at Capri, and that nurse will go from home to home and make sure that people's blood pressures are right and make sure that there's no need for additional care. If that becomes necessary, then we can add either care workers to those persons in need of care for an hour or for 12 hours or for 24 hours. And then if that person needs to be admitted into the care center, we can also do that. So each and every situation is different, Steph. I think it's important to understand that there's no two people that's got the same needs. So our primary concern is to tailor make something to suit the individual's needs.
Perfect. And then I think that just questions here from Evelyn in terms of how does the pricing of assisted living and frail care work in future? And then also just a question from Imogen McKeezer just said, will homes have red buttons called to be able to alert to medical emergencies?
Okay, so the first question in terms of assisted living, our assisted living in KZN ranges between 30 and 35,000 Rand per month. But people tend to forget that includes everything. It's like staying in a hotel. So it's your board and lodging, it's your nursing care, it's even your cappuccinos and snacks in between. So you literally get all your meals, 90 meals a month. You get your rental, water rights, everything is included. And the expensive part in assisted living and frail care is actually the nursing care. So people have tried to do it themselves, and all of a sudden you see, because you need care maybe around the clock, you need to employ 4 or 5 people just to cover all the shifts, and that's the part that's actually a bit more expensive. The question in terms of the panic buttons, I think that's what they probably referred to when they said the red buttons. We will not be able to do a panic response service. What we can offer and what we will probably provide is a direct ambulance service where the paramedics can come if there's a case of an emergency. And we generally have those agreements At all 8 other facilities that we run currently, that we have frail care centers at, we've got a relationship with a local paramedic service, and then you guys can directly contact them. Unfortunately, with a care center that's not on the doorstep, literally in Capri, it's not feasible to do a panic response system. But what we found is that the paramedic service works very, very well.
Cool. And I mean, I think the most important thing is the process and how to make that as seamless as possible. So what is the process for someone wanting to purchase a Capri Village?
Oh, yeah, okay, Steph. Look, it's not all that complicated. I'll try and go through it pretty quickly so that we can get an idea as far as process is concerned. Due to the demand at Salta, what the client or what the purchaser will be asked to do is sign what's called a reservation agreement and pay 50,000 Rand, which will be part of the purchaser's overall deposit in any event. Once that's done, the purchaser has basically secured or not rather reserved the unit. We will then send the sale agreement to the purchaser. The purchaser then needs to go over the sale agreement, to ask any questions, to deal with any queries within a period of 14 days. Within 14 days, the sale agreement needs to be signed by the purchaser, and the purchaser needs to pay the balance of the 10% deposit. Now, remember that balance of the deposit is paid into my trust account. It's invested on behalf of the purchaser. At that point in time, we get the seller to countersign the agreement. The agreement is countersigned by the seller, and then the purchaser has 60 days from that date to secure the balance of the purchase price, either by means of a bank guarantee, cash, or bond finance. Just to come to the bond finance side of things, we have mortgage originators who we work with, who are familiar with the product, and will be able to assist the purchaser with that finance. So in a nutshell, that's basically what the process is. It gives the purchaser enough time to go through the agreement. We'll be there to answer any queries, and then there are certain timeframes put into that, because obviously we want to get the process done. But we give the purchaser enough time to secure bond finance and to obviously sign the sale agreement as well. So in a nutshell, that's basically what the process is.
Cool. And then, and I think just a question from Dave Aiken, I think it almost overlaps between you and Cornell. Approximately what would home nursing cost, and is there a care levy that everyone pays? I mean, I know there is a levy that contributes towards the nursing care.
Yeah, yes, so I'm happy.
Yeah. Okay, Cornell, you go ahead. Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay, so the nursing, as I tried to explain earlier, is dependent person specific. So if it's only, for example, 1 hour, it's like 100 Rand. So if I send a nurse to you to spend 1 hour a day, it's 100 Rand a day, so it will cost you 3,000 Rand per month. And that obviously escalates up until some people we provide 24-hour home-based care. But obviously then it becomes a little bit less in terms of hours, because then you're taking bulk. In terms of the levy, we provide that primary healthcare service. So the nurse that we employ basically gets covered by the levies. So as part of the Capri levy, there will be a care portion that pays Total Care to deliver that service. But all of the rest, so that's only the Monday to Friday village nurse service. All of the rest is for your own account. We don't believe in cross subsidies. I don't want everybody in one village to pay for one person lying in frail care or needing 24-hour care. So those people that need specific care, they pay for it themselves. And the village as in general, the whole Capri village will get the primary healthcare basic as part of their levy.
Got it. And I guess that point about not cross-subsidizing is such a huge thing in terms of
sorry, I just wanted to mention that, sorry, if I can, just on the facility of the Sibaya frail care, which I must say, I've had a look at it. It's an absolutely spectacular facility. It really is. I mean, as Cornell said, it actually feels like a hotel when you walk in. It really is very, very nicely done to high standard. But what I was just going to get to was, as a developer, for us to put in, call it a 50 or 60 million rand facility, and build that in as, let's call it a direct and exclusive facility for the estate. Those costs have got to be amortized through the building prices that we, we're obviously on selling. So I think, we've been very cognitive of keeping the price point low. And we really, to be honest, we're really stoked that we have tied in with Cornell, because we've got this world-class facility on our doorstep. We don't have to capex it, which means we don't have to push that cost through into all the homes that we're selling. And that's the important part of how we've managed to keep the price point so competitive, by not having to roll that capex cost through all the units, and obviously in turn pass some of that capex cost onto the buyers. I think that's a big reason why our pricing is so competitive.
I think just to add on to that, Charles, if I may, sorry, Steph. I think just to add on to that, I think that's what the discussions have been quite for some time. To build two big care centers next to each other is also not good for the community, because I think from a care center perspective, we are servicing the bigger North Coast area as well. So I think it is great, as you've mentioned, Charles, that we can actually leverage off each other and work together as one with Shoreline Sibaya and with Capri. So that's awesome.
And then, Charles, I mean, just to go to your point there, I guess the same principle applies to levies. I mean, levies are always the biggest thing in terms of the potential burden that could have on people going forward. But to be able to spread that across a large community was obviously a huge component of your thinking there too.
Yeah, I think, look, the reality is, let's call it disposable income becomes a problem as you get older, and you do start counting the pennies. So keeping those levies down, I don't know if we've talked levies, but we want to keep them in that region of 2,000 to 2,500 rand for levies. And it's important, if you have full-time care on site with nurses and multiple levels of nursing, and you have to share that as a community, whether you use it or not, it becomes quite punitive. So, and we are targeting this product as an over 50s active lifestyle. So there's going to be many of our residents that are probably fitter than all of us on this panel. So, we've got to have the facility available if needed, but at the same time, not be punitive to those who don't need it at this point in time. And you'll see that in the levy structure.
Cool. Charles, you just went onto mute there, just so you know. But I think just a couple of questions. I think a lot of questions have come through. I know Dina Governor is one of them, just with regards to the timeline of Capri as a whole. And then also another question in terms of from JJ Fourie about, is there building timelines that plus purchase need to be fully built within a defined period? I think if you can maybe just recap on that. I know you did touch on it earlier.
Sure. Okay. So the intention is to start Capri. Probably we've already started the earthworks, but you'll probably see top structures going up very early in the new year. The build period is probably going to be in the region of 11 to 14 months. We are not going to be building in phases. When I say that, I mean in terms of phase one, which we're launching now, we will build the entire amount. Whether or not a unit is sold, we build it. We don't believe in coming back and filling in homes in between and disrupting. So we will be building all 122 units. So, all being well, we will probably see the first units being ready by the end of next year, but probably all complete by March the year thereafter. In terms of the freehold plots which are available to buy and then build your own homes, they are linked to the estate. They are slightly on the other side of the entrance road. So the ruling on that, as we've done on the Mount Cotton plots, is that you have 3 years to start your building. So, and that's to start it and then 18 months to complete. So there is some, let's call it time grace on those. I think, to be completely honest, I think the right way to hit it is to smack all of them at once, because the disruption of building over a period of years is no one wants to live in a building site. So we will only open up the next phase once we've completed phase 1, and so on and so on. So, and there are nice green buffer zones between each phase to allow us to do that in a sort of harmonious way.
And then Charles, in terms of pet policy, how important was that in the planning?
Well, I know that pets and let's call it over 50s are peas in a pod. I mean, I think, you know, just thinking about my mom and my dad, their pets, once the kids leave the nest, the pets become the kids again. And I think it's so important to have a pet-friendly policy and allow people to have their dogs and cats. We do allow people to enter with the existing animals. We try and say under I think it's a 25 kilo, which is sort of a Labrador, 30 kilo Labrador size, is what we would like to see. However, if you've got a dog that's 35 kilos and enjoys the occasional pork sausage, we're not going to make you put him down. He can come. But we just try and keep the 30 kilo rule of dogs, 25, 30 kilo rule. Cats are quite a big issue. We do allow cats to come, but if they are cats that are roaming and they're causing all the dogs to wake and bark, unfortunately they will not be allowed to be kept, because ultimately cats do move around, and so if they're indoor cats we can make an exception. If they're going to be those ones that roam around, there will be problems in the association. So cats are the tricky one.
Yeah. Pam, I'm going to come back to you in a sec, but just and there are a few questions. Debbie, Klaus, Saki, I think there are a few others that I missed around levies. And I think it's a really important question. Can you just clarify in terms, I think a couple of questions in terms of, have the levies been set? How much is a typical levy? And is there a levy for Capri as well as a second levy for the state as a whole?
Yeah, so basically the levies have been set. There's if I can just mention how this is all structured, we have a Master Management Association, which is an association that takes care of the whole of Salta. And then we have a number of sub-associations, for example, the sectional part of it, Mount Cotton's part of the main association, then we obviously got the commercial and the retail. So there are a number of associations, sub-associations as well. So there will be a levy payable to the main association, and the levy payable to the sub-association will be what you would normally pay to, for example, a body corporate. The levies have been are extremely reasonable for Capri. Pam, maybe you could just pop in here with regard to the amounts. I know you've got the figures there as far as the levies for Capri is concerned for the association as opposed to the sub-association itself.
Okay, I'll quickly run through it. So the association levy for the Capri homes will be 1.6. Then you have a body corporate levy that would be 10 Rand per square meter, and that will be on the FAR on your home. So we've kept it quite simple and very affordable, definitely under the 3,000 Rand mark. And then for the Capri freehold plots, those are standard at 3,000, and I'm talking about association and sub-association levies. But once a client inquires, our team, when they're here and they come through for an appointment to view and to discuss and to select options and plots and all of that, we're happy to provide all of that. Even at inquiry stage, somebody will be able to send them all of that. So we're happy to help with that.
And then, sorry, Steph, just one other thing. As far as the care levy is concerned, we've combined the care levy together with the sub-association levy. So the client only pays the one levy, and then that amount will be distributed to Total Care, etc. So we've tried to simplify it as much as possible for the clients as far as levies payments are concerned. Yeah.
So Steph, can I just jump in on levies? I just want to. I think it's quite important when we structure the levies. What we do is we look at a holistic number per opportunity. So we don't just charge on a square meter rate. We have a fixed amount, which we charge per home, because we believe everyone enjoys the same benefits of the facilities and security, etc., regardless of whether they have a 2-bedroom home or a 5-bedroom home or a 1-bedroom home. And then we charge a PQ, which is per square meter effectively on top of that. And that's how we derive the numbers that Pam and Ant are talking to.
And so just to recap, so if you had a sectional title unit, you'd be paying 1,600 Rand, and then you'd have your PQ or your body corporate levy of 10 Rand a square in addition to that. And am I correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Cool. Perfect.
And just on another note there'll also be once-off stabilization levies, which is very common in a estate. We've got the once-off costs of, and it's broken down into various components: conservation, electrical, fiber, association. And for the Capri home levies, that would be 40, and for the freehold, that's 45. But it's all broken down, as I've just mentioned earlier, into those various components.
And Steph, if I can also jump in there quickly, I just don't want everybody to be concerned about the levies and payments, because there's always something that, you know, we want to try and keep as low as possible. But it's no different to what's been done in all the other states in any event. So, you know, it's not the estates are generally similar as far as the levies are concerned, and what you get for those levies. So most estates you've got to pay a stabilization fee. And there's going to be other connection fees to be paid as well. So, but we'll go through that with the clients, and we'll be able to give them all the details about the levies and the different payments that are made, including attorney's costs and conveyancing fees, and, you know, and all that other stuff. So that's what we'll do during the course of the process.
Yeah, and I guess
sorry, just last thing on this levy. Sorry, Steph.
No.
I think what's also, I mean, just, you know, going through the process with a lot of Salta buyers as well, is when you consider the levies, you know, wherever you may be living at the moment, you've got to deduct whatever building insurance you pay on your existing premises, because that's included in the levy. You've got to deduct any security costs or contracts you have with your marshal securities or whoever it may be. That's also included in the levy. The landscaping for the general areas is included, as well as gym memberships. There's no need for a gym membership or a fitness club membership, because it's all in-house. So when you start adding all those things up for maybe a couple, it actually comes to quite a decent chunk of money. So it's not a levy on top of that. It's a levy in place of that, which I think it's quite important when you work out those numbers to see how much actually extra are you paying.
Cool. And and I guess just to summarize that point, the crux is when you buy into a bigger community, you can spread it across a number of units. I think that's a huge benefit of something like Salta. Pam, I think just for people who've joined, I think there are a few queries around facilities, apart from the bowls that we can see in the background there. Can you just touch on all the other facilities, and also just touch on what Capri residents have access to versus what Salta residents have access to?
All right, so should we start with Salta Sibaya, the entire estate? What you've got is a fully fledged sports center that is a fully equipped gym. You've got a Olympic length swimming pool, tennis courts, squash courts. You've got 2 clubhouses. One is inside Capri, one is just outside Capri. You've got pools throughout. You've got running tracks, nature trails in the forest, a 1-kilometer-long park with various pause areas, kickabout field. So there's quite a lot on the resort to do, and we've taken all aspects into consideration. With Capri buyers, they have access to all of the amenities throughout the estate. And with the Capri clubhouse, that is accessible to, it is exclusively for Capri buyers, but if they have guests from Mount Cotton or Salta Estate, they're able to obviously accommodate and entertain those guests in the clubhouse. So one is exclusively for Capri residents, which is inside the village, and then you've got a greater Salta Sibaya clubhouse that's accessible to Capri, Mount Cotton, and Salta Estate. And like I said, other than the one clubhouse inside Capri, all of the facilities are accessible to all residents.
And then Charles, I mean, I know we joked about Cornell sitting in the pub, but there's obviously a lot of planning that's gone into that facility there. Can you just maybe touch on it?
Yeah, I actually wanted that screensaver that he's got, but I got this bony green one. So I think what we did a lot lot of research and actually visited quite a few over 50s or retirement, all of them. And I think the important part about having a clubhouse is that you start forming clubs within clubhouses. So whether it be a bowling club or a cards club or a bridge club or a poker club or a snooker club, or even a drinking club. I mean, it's a wine club, whatever, a book club. So we've created these little zones such as snooker rooms and card rooms and library rooms and lounges and bowling areas, little pubs. There are bird hides scattered around the estate to try and encourage guys to form little communities within the community and clubs within clubs. And I think that's what this clubhouse has really been good at. A lot of the rooms are multifunctional, so they can serve as a meeting room, say, for the body corporate, but they can also serve as a sewing club during the day, and then they can be turned into a wine club the next evening. So they're multifunctional spaces that will obviously serve the various components that start forming through as the estate sort of develops and the communities knit together.
I think the one thing I didn't mention about facilities at Capri is you've got an indoor heated pool. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about anything else that I might have left out with Capri, Charles.
Yeah, so the clubhouse that Cornell's sitting in and I'm sitting outside or standing outside, that's the first clubhouse. The second clubhouse will then be built as we start the next phase. And that will be designed more for, you know, the hydro, like sort of that hydro centers where you have your indoor swimming and yoga classes and that. So let's call it a fitness orientated center, but it's orientated at the over 50s and over 60s. It could even be used for rehab, for some physio, etc., in the aquatic areas. It will probably include some saunas and steam rooms. So it's more, let's call it aquatic and sports orientated. And the clubhouse that you see us behind us is a more socially orientated clubhouse. And that will come probably with phase 2, and then phase 3 will then piggyback on the 2 clubhouses. Roughly 100 units in phase 2 and 100 in phase 3.
And then Charles, I mean, a couple of questions around the interiors. I know Bronwyn and Middlebrook spoke about, are the appliances integrated? And as you can see, with Pam sitting in one of the units, but obviously I know you spoke about the research and a huge amount in terms of stepless living, garages, future storage, and the ability to retrofit in future. Can you just maybe elaborate on that? Because I think there's a huge amount there that people need to know about.
Yeah, so all the homes come with a package which you can choose. It's actually a very nominal cost. So it's called a DDA package for bathrooms, which is your grab rails and all the various facilities in the showers and seats, etc. In the full sort of a paraplegic accessibility. There's all the corridors and the doors have been widened to accommodate wheelchairs. The turning circles in the bathrooms as well have been configured so that they are wheelchair friendly to use the pollution facilities. The kitchens, for example, there's an option to lower the counters, which make them wheelchair friendly. On those home types as well, a simple thing like the wall plugs and the light switches are slightly lowered and the wall plugs are slightly raised. So those are the very, very small nuances. But just make lifestyle and living with a disability far more amenable. I suppose there are other packages which go even further for hearing and visual impairments, which could be on a bespoke one-on-one basis, but would facilitate some of those installations. And I think the whole thought process behind having stepless living is so important, whether or not you're in a wheelchair or you're old or frail. It might not be now, but in 10 years' time, that might be the case. So we've tried to be very cognizant of the fact that people's lifestyles will change whilst they're living there, and then those retrofitted items can be added to all homes.
Perfect. I know Albert Elliott has asked the question, is there a certain percentage sold to investors versus own use? But I mean, I might as well just answer that. I think absolutely not. The reality is the community probably will most likely be people from an end use perspective, and probably 70-80%, but we do know that there probably will be 20% investor market who will just see the value of investing in retirement and forward planning, either for themselves or for family and so forth. And then Albert's also asked the question, is can we book a digital viewing to view and discuss as we in Gauteng? It's quite interesting. There's a lot of, there's definitely been a lot of interest from Gauteng, and we're seeing that ongoing trend. What I am going to do is just pull up the interactive module, which many of you may or may not have seen quickly as a tool, just because I think it provides a bit of relevance to the opportunities in terms of how that will be structured. Let me just quickly pull this. Sorry, can you guys see my screen? Cool. Yes. So I think this is quite interesting. I think a huge amount of the sales within Salta to date, whether it be Mount Cotton or Salta Estate, have been done by this interactive module. The interactive module has actually been updated and now for Capri Village. I think the whole objective would be that if one had to look at this, one would be able to go in, and I think the team will be sharing this link shortly, as well as the link to the full downloads page for Capri. And within the downloads page for Capri, you'll be able to view the interactive module. You'll be able to view the digital brochure, the FAQ, the buyer's guide, all the videos that have been done. All the videos have been broken down in terms of focusing on different components of development. But I think if one wanted to go into here and just have a look, so this is where Capri sits in relation to the overall development. And I think for those of you who know, this is the entrance road into Mshloti, down to Mshloti itself, and this is your M4 with your basically access to the airport and so forth. So where Capri sits, I think just to give you guys a bit of an indication, this is a tool that any of you guys can utilize and go through. And I think the whole reason why this has been structured, I'm going to move my thing, is that how you have the ability to be able to start searching in terms of within phase one, in terms of either you can go and you can look at where 2-bed units or 2-bed 1-bath units can go, where 3-bed 2-bath units can go in terms of different options. You can start looking at the different house types, but you can also filter by price. And I think a lot of questions were asked earlier in terms of what plot prices. So here, for example, if you wanted a plot price between 900,000 and 1.1 million, but you also wanted a 3-bed 2-bath, for example, or in this case, we know there's a huge demand for 2-bed 2-bath. Gives you the ability to be able to narrow that down, and you either have the ability to be able to go into that particular option. And I think this is where what Charles is saying about is in terms of then being able to, yes, you can look at the view from that particular unit, and we know we're facing westward, so your sunsets are pretty exceptional, and then be able to decide. So you selected your 2-bed 2-bath. You then have the ability to be able to go into one of the different unit types, and what's happening here is it's adding the cost of the land together with the cost of the build. And you then have the ability to play around with different price points depending on what your requirements are, to be able to zoom into that particular unit type. I mean, Charles can talk more about the sizing and how it's been configured, etc. And then going through from there in terms of being able to choose between your classic or your premium option. I think that's what Charles was talking about in terms of what COA architects have done an exceptional job with the development team in terms of speccing these out between the two different options. And then one step further in terms of then being able to go into all the add-ons that Charles spoke about in terms of your grab rails or your shower seats. And I think the team have done an exceptional job in terms of how they spec all these different things. And as you're selecting these options, you obviously see your pricing being a main at the top. So this is a good site with add-ons and various different other things. And then from there, to be able to go into team and request a quote, and that the sales team can then deal directly with you in terms of being able to work with you on the different selection. I mean, Charles, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to this whole process, but we really try to make it as seamless and really, really encourage people to go through this tool and use it as a massive tool between now and the launch event come the 4th of September.
Yeah, I think, Steph, what we've seen as well is quite interesting. Some people will choose the house first and are not really that bothered on exactly what plot they're on. Other people will then go the other way and choose plots first and whether it's a large 2-bed house or a small 2-bedroom home, it's not really that relevant. So it gives the buyer the ability to choose where they want to spend their money. So you might have a budget of, say, 2.8 million. You only need a 2-bedroom house, but you want a larger plot. You can still put a small house on the larger plots, or vice versa. So it really does give the buyer a lot of power to almost design their own home on their designated plots and choose where they want to spend their money. And I think it was probably 50-50 on the way that people did that, on what we've seen at Salta. Some people started the house and some people started the plot. So the beauty of that module is it allows each individual buyer to pick and choose and have multiple iterations to hit a budget that they're fixed on a 2.6 million rand budget. They need 2 bedrooms, they need 2 bathrooms, and they want a double garage as an example. They can then choose their plot to suit their budget, or decide, okay, I'll spend an extra 50,000 rand and get a slightly better plot. So it gives them a lot of ability to almost customize their home type.
100%. And I think, so I know the team has, I hope you guys can all see it, shared the interactive module link there, which is Salta Sibaya sales. And also there are various different components that you can go and look at all the different facilities within Salta as a whole, play around with different things, play around with different views. And when you do actually do the inquiry, you'll be sent a copy of that inquiry with all the add-ons you've chosen, which just gives a really good engagement point with you in the sales team. But there's so much you can play around with there. And really encourage you to go all through all the different videos. Charles has been really busy in recording videos, so you'll be pretty sick of him by the end. But I think there are probably 5 or 6 just on Capri in terms of going through the different elements, the facilities, the security, and all those other facets. So it just gives you a lot of reading matter, and it's an important decision to make. And I think that's why I know Pam will chat about now in terms of the way forward. But the launch event initially was earmarked for the 21st. I just feel there's so much interest and there's so much engagement. The guys want to do one-on-one and to allow a little bit more time, 2 weeks extra to do that, so that everyone, by the time we get to opening up the sales, everyone is 100% confident, asks all the right questions, and really excited about the journey forward. So Pam, I mean, I don't know if you want to sort of almost wrap up just in terms of what the next steps are.
Yeah, so Steph, it's quite simple. We've been inundated with requests. The sales center has been quite busy with inquiries, and our team's been, spending 2 to 3 hours with each client, going through everything very, very in-depth, taking people to site if they want to look at the possible stands. And like Charles said, you'd have some guys that are more pressed on choosing a house type, and others that want to see the plot and see what they're getting into before choosing. So either way, we give them an overview of the entire estate. So what we're encouraging people to do is make an appointment, come through. Our sales center, we're busy, but the way we make appointments, we ensure that there's a very limited number of clients coming through, and that's for their own safety, because we administering safety and COVID protocols very, very strictly. So client safety first. And yeah, we've had I would say at least 50 families come through in the last week. So it's been really, really busy. The product has been well received. People are excited about it. So we urge them to come sit. You might not choose a home type in the first sitting. You might come and spend time with one of the team members twice or thrice and be absolutely thorough and certain that it is what you want. And we're here to guide you. We've got all the knowledge. The developers are literally in the same building. When I need any legal advice, Ant's on speed dial. Cornell also has given me his personal number to give to clients. So we ever ready. I mean, from a total care point, from a legal point, Charles is highly involved from a developer point, because you have unique questions. Every client's different, requirements are different, but we as a team, we want to make sure that the choices and the final decisions are exactly where they want to be. So we ever ready to welcome guys into the sales center. And that's why we've pushed out for safety purposes, because with COVID, and we know a few people are weary about COVID, and then there's been an overwhelming demand. So we are limiting the number of people coming in purely for safety. And we urge the guys to contact us so we can diarize accordingly.
Perfect. Thanks, Pam. So I think, I just think a big thank you to everyone who's joined. I think we've had a really good turnout, and I really appreciate all the questions. Unfortunately, we can't get through all these questions, but I think whatever we haven't got through, I think it's a really good opportunity to engage with the team. They'll be able to answer all those questions. I know there were a lot of questions about levies, and remember, levies only get payable when transfer takes place, et cetera, et cetera. So there are a lot of things that the guys can go through, and that's probably a discussion on its own. But I think to everyone, to Ant, to Cornell, to Charles, to Pam, thanks very much, guys. I appreciate your time. And like we said, we've left all the details on the chat. We will be making a recording of this. We'll be circulating to everyone who has inquired around Salta or Capri during the course of tomorrow, and really encourage you to send it out to friends or family who haven't had the opportunity to get to it. But I think this is really unique and very exciting new chapter in the Salta journey. So thanks very much, everyone. Have a good evening, and thanks for your time.
Thanks, Dave.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, everybody.